Have you ever heard of a man who could bite through solid steel? Not bend it, not break it with tools, but crush it using only his teeth. Crowds gathered in disbelief. Some thought it was fake. Others thought it was a trick. But his name echoed across stages and streets. The mighty Atom, born as Joseph Greenstein. He was not a giant, not a monster of size or muscle. He was small, ordinary looking, almost forgettable in appearance. But what he could do defied logic. He bent iron rods with his bare hands. He snapped chains like thread and performed feats that left doctors speechless. But his strength didn't come from luck. It came from pain, training, and a life built on pushing beyond human limits. Because Joseph Greenstein wasn't just performing tricks. He was proving something far deeper, and what he would attempt next would turn him into a living legend. Joseph Greenstein was not born strong. In fact, his early life was filled with weakness. Doctors doubted he would survive like a normal child, but something inside him refused that ending. While others rested, he trained. While others stopped, he pushed further. Every day became repetition. Every movement became discipline. He lifted what his body could barely handle. He stayed in pain longer than anyone else would. No shortcuts, no miracle, only willpower. Slowly, something changed. His body adapted. His strength began to grow in silence. Not gifted, not natural, but built. And what he was preparing for next would take that silent strength and turn it into something the world had never believed possible. The moment came on a crowded stage. Joseph stood in silence before the audience. No speech, no warning, just focus. He picked up a thick iron rod. People smiled, expecting failure. He placed it between his teeth, and then he bit down, harder and harder. The metal resisted. Then slowly, it began to bend. At first just slightly, then completely. The sound of twisting iron filled the room. Gasps replaced laughter. Silence replaced doubt, because what they were seeing made no sense. A man bending steel with his teeth. Not illusion, not trick, but real. And from that moment, Joseph Greenstein stopped being just a performer and became a legend in motion. News of the mighty Atom spread quickly. Crowds grew larger with every performance. But Joseph didn't slow down. He pushed further, harder, deeper into strength. He began performing feats that seemed impossible, bending thicker iron, snapping stronger chains, holding pressure that looked unbearable. But what amazed people most was his control. No shaking, no struggle, only calm focus, as if pain no longer affected him. Audiences were stunned. Some believed it was supernatural. Others thought it must be technique. But Joseph never explained himself. He simply performed. Because for him, it was never about attention. It was about proving the limits of the human body. And those limits were still not reached. Something even greater was coming. With fame came greater challenges. Heavier metal, stranger requests, bigger crowds watching his every move. Joseph Greenstein accepted them all. He pulled heavy objects using only his teeth. He endured strain that most could not survive. He performed under pressure that tested both body and mind. But something had changed inside him. Strength was no longer the goal. Endurance was. Control was. Mastery was. Every performance became a test of will, not just to impress, but to understand how far a human could truly go. Yet behind the applause, there was still one final challenge waiting, a limit that had never been tested before. And Joseph was ready to find it, no matter the cost. The final performance was different. No laughter, no doubt, only silence. Joseph Greenstein stood under the spotlight. The crowd watched without blinking. He held the metal tightly. Then slowly, he began to bite down. The resistance was stronger this time. His body tensed. The metal struggled, but then it gave way. The sound of bending steel filled the space. Gasps erupted everywhere. But Joseph didn't react, because for him, this was never about fame. It was about proving human potential. And that legacy didn't end here. It began here. If you enjoyed this cinematic story, subscribe for more true legends brought to life, and comment "Atom" if you want more untold stories like this.